everybody. It's 4:53 a.m. Going for a walk. That's how I start my day. Woke up to some text messages. And I expected this. You know, I got, obviously, listen, this is funny. You know, we make these stupid podcasts, and some of these things are over an hour long. And it's like, who would listen to us? You know what I mean? Like, first of all, who would make this shit, right? And of course, we went ahead and we did it yesterday. And it was actually fun. It's actually fun if you can get guys together and do it, you know. It's not easy. I don't really have a problem talking. You know, just like I was saying yesterday in my podcast, you know, number one, I'm a teacher. Number two, yeah, I'm Italian. I could talk all fucking day. But anyway, woke up to a text message, and the Falcons apparently are interested in Chuck. Just kind of asked, hey, whatever happened to him last year, you know, this year, he was dominant, you know. Turned around right away, and I gave him his number. You know, Luke and PJ are not interested in having him back. He came to one or two games. That was it. You know, came to the game against the Falcons, and that game he closed. Then he started a game in left field against the Biscuits, and he blew that game. He gave up like a fucking mammoth home run to Jack. That's it. Never saw him again. He was supposed to come back, and he never did. So what happened to Chuck? Well, first I have to tell you about, like, how do I tolerate some of the nonsense that I tolerated? Well, a lot of it starts with first impressions. You know what I mean? And where these people come from. You know, 2024, when we were struggling to get guys, Luke recommended Chuck. So I actually thought they were like really good friends, you know. And funny thing is, in college, they would combine their last names, and they'd call them Arantavino all the time. I don't know where that came from, but it was funny. When me and Gus went to the game, you know, to watch Jacob's last game, we heard them saying it, and we were laughing our asses off. And funny, like, Chuck actually asked me to come watch him pitch a couple times. He pitched against two schools. One school, he threw 6 innings. The other, he threw like 3 innings. They took him out. As soon as they took him out of the game, I left. Mother was a sweetheart. Forgot her name. I want to say it was Debbie, but she was super nice. And she came to some of his games last year and the year before. So I really thought I was getting this super nice young core. And there, Chuck tried bringing some other people. What the hell was the one? I forgot the one kid he brought. Brandon. He ended up not being very good. And then he brought Owen. Owen was very good. Just wasn't super committed. But it seemed like he was into it. So, you know, I liked him. He actually, my first phone call with him, he FaceTimed me while I was teaching. So I talked to him. It was after the period. I talked to him on the phone, and he told me he was interested and whatever. So he came down, and he threw against Los Royals. We ended up losing that game. But I decided that, you know, because he was pitching in 2 leagues, that I was going to get him eligible through plate appearances. So I did. At first, I didn't think he was going to come back. So I counted his pitching stats, but his hitting stats, I think I put them under somebody else, you know, because I really didn't think he was coming back. And then he did start showing up. So I took someone else's hitting stats who filled in, and I put them under Chuck. And then he started coming regularly, so I put his hitting stats in, you know. And it looked like this kid couldn't hit the blind side of a fucking barn. He got like his first hit against the Tailgaters. It was this dribbler that bounced over the first baseman's head, and he's like holding his arms in the air like fucking Bruce Jenner when he won the gold medal in the 80s, you know. And me and Gus are laughing our asses off, you know. In fact, the first doubleheader he Uber Eated like a $50 order from Taco Bell. You can see how many fucking tacos this kid was eating. I couldn't fucking believe it, Whatever. We play a doubleheader against the Cobras. That ended up being my last doubleheader before I had my surgery. And he actually hit like a huge triple after Nick Zanata was bitching, complaining that we balked or something stupid. And I don't remember. But then, yeah, Chuck literally left no doubt. Evan started that game. We won the first game 1-0. Stans hit a home run. And then that game, we came back. We were down 4-0. And I want to say we won 8-4 or something. He had a really nice girlfriend, beautiful girl, Emily. Great personality. She just was always smiling. She had a very welcoming face. Like my kids came to watch that game, and they instantly were like gravitated, toward her. So you could always, they always say you should judge a person by how a kid's reaction is to them, And my kids were instantly gravitated toward her. She played with them, and she had a nice smile, and, really sweet girl. When we played the game against Los Royals at Bay Park, she carried all the stuff to the car for me. And I told her she didn't have to, but she knew I just had surgery, She sat here for double headers against the Patriots, and she literally sat there all fucking day. 4, 6, 8 hours, whatever it was. When we had the get together at Gus's house, we were starting to barbecue and hang out and whatever. She came over and, she drank with us. My wife liked her, she played with my kids, everything. I mean, it was just a really nice girl. So I really liked Chuck. And then he, I brought him back the next year. And, my plan was to play him as a two-way guy, He had 255 for us last year. He had some hits in games that guys weren't hitting. So that always impresses me when nobody's hitting and then you get a hit. You get that first hit, And that kind of opens up the floodgates, things like that. He also was able to catch. He was a decent catcher, believe it or not. He pitched a game against the Port Washington Tide in the pouring rain at Bayport. He helped organize a lot of practices for us. He was one of the people that got practices together both seasons that he was here. So again, I loved it. I loved the young guys practicing, and they really were infusing energy into myself, Brooks, Stans, Gus even. And Gus actually sent a long text message of how he was never more miserable on the field than 2024. And then I think this year topped it, which is what made me walk away. So I really liked Chuck. He played all last season. Saw some behavioral issues coming. First, noticed, he didn't have that same girlfriend anymore. He got a new girlfriend, and she did not look very friendly at all. First thought he was too old for her. But she was like a hairdresser, and she had this stink face. You know what I mean? At all times, not friendly at all. You try to start a conversation with her. Not a nice, friendly person at all. And he would yell at her, and I don't know, and him and Daniel kind of became best buddies. And same thing, Daniel was not even 18 years old yet, so just weird that he was hanging out with young kids. Now, a 3-year difference isn't a big deal when you're older, but at that age it is. When one of you is allowed to drink and the other one isn't, it's a big deal. So I just didn't understand why he would go backward like that. I get it. Relationships don't work out, but your hope is that you don't make a backward move. That you at the very least make a lateral move or an upward move. That's what you would think. So, we had a doubleheader. This is actually a funny story. But he would have her sitting in the dugout with us. And she would just sit there and make everybody, like, uncomfortable. You know what I mean? It was different than when Emily was there. You know, like, Emily was, like, one of the guys. You know what I mean? Emily was one of the guys. She had a good personality. She helped, like, kind of lighten up the mood. You know what I mean? And I honestly think we played better for it. And it actually did remind me of when I was coaching my team years ago. And all the wives at that time came down. You know, we all had, like, young, pretty wives. And them coming around and hanging out, it wasn't that big of a... Now, when they fucking started opening up bottles of wine, and they were drinking wine and saying stupid shit, then I had, you know, we had to get them out of the dugout at that point, you know. But all the guys were like, all right, you all have to leave. You know, that was the Cooperstown tournament. But anyway, she comes down one day, and Daniel brings his girlfriend. And then, yeah, for a lack of a better term, she has, like, these two friends that are homosexual. And they're sitting in the dugout. Now, listen, let me be the first to tell you, I don't care about people's sexual preference. I don't care. But you have to understand, when we're playing baseball, it's man time. You know what I'm saying? Like, we just want to do man shit. We want to say man things. Guys want to say stupid things. They want to act stupid. This is our time to get our fix for the regular world. You know? And actually, my wife and I had a few couples that we were friends with that were homosexual. We all hung out in a group. You know, there was like 50 of us. So altogether, there was 4 of them. But one of them, you know, one of the couples we were actually like kind of close to. They actually watched our dog when we were on vacation. One of them was a big football fan. So it was fine. Like, I didn't give a shit. You know what I mean? Like, it was understood. You know what I mean? Like, we're straight, you're not, that's okay. We didn't care, so whatever. Just to clear that up. But, you know, you might be saying, well, why do you have to tell the story like that? But I have to tell the story in its context, because if I don't, you know what I mean, then you won't understand it. So, they're in the dugout, and they're talking about, like, uncomfortable shit. Like, man-hating shit. You know what I mean? And the guys are walking by, and they're like, what the fuck is this? You know? So they come up to me like, Sal, get these fucking assholes out of the fucking dugout. And they said a few other things after that. So I got put in a very, like, uncomfortable situation where I had to get these people out of the dugout. You know? So I didn't say anything to them because, again, like, I'm trying to keep the peace. You know what I mean? But I finally had to go to Chuck and be like, hey, you got to get these people out of the dugout. You know, and I already could kind of sense that just asking him to do that there was going to be ramifications for it. Like, I just got that sense. You know, I think he felt that he could just kind of do whatever he wanted at that point. And it was too soon in the Oiler relationship to feel that way, you know? So he did get them out of the dugout, and then, like, the 4 of them are looking at me like I'm the biggest piece of shit. And then one of them actually turned around and gave me the fucking finger over it. Like, telling me to go fuck myself. Like, you're disrupting the flow of the dugout. You know what I mean? Anyway, late for double headers, saying he had to bring his mother to church. We got to the playoffs, and we ended up winning the first game against the Biscuits. Calvin pitched. I always say Calvin had a very, like, calming effect on this team, you know. Just the flow of the game would be good. And we kind of stumbled into the playoffs towards the end of the year. We'd win one game, lose another, win one game, lose another. We ended up losing the final doubleheader to Los Royals. I didn't want to pitch Cal that Sunday because if I did, first, if we would have won that doubleheader, Los Royals wouldn't even have made it. The Cobras would have made it. Now, where that would have placed us in the standings, I did kind of want to bounce Los Royals out because I knew Los Royals was the better team out of them and the Cobras. I knew we could beat the Cobras. I also knew the Cobras would make sure they had their best guys when we played them because they did when we played them in the playoffs in 2024. We swept them. but the games were tight, you know. But again, the expense that would have caused. Calvin was leaving to go on vacation like that Tuesday. So the way it worked out, I needed him to pitch Monday to have Chuck pitch, you know, the Sunday doubleheader and hope we win game one. That was the plan. Because I know the Biscuits can swing, you know. So we win game one. Now you're like, oh, Sal, what happened to all the other pitchers? Jacob Galaz didn't come back. You know, he had poison ivy. He went on vacations. I don't know. He just never came back. Patrick Quinn pitched a couple of games. He never came back. Jack Malloy technically wasn't on our roster, so I didn't want to pitch him in the playoffs. I did have him pitching as Jimmer, and he did pitch against the Biscuits in a doubleheader, and I could have actually put him on the roster, but again, didn't believe that he was going to hang around. So another one of those situations where, like, I wanted to get Jimmer eligible. Jimmer was on the team the year before. He helped push us through the 2024 run. So I wanted to get him back. I wanted to get Casey back. So I should have just put Jack Malloy on the roster right then and there and pitched him. I didn't get the sense that he was going to hang around either, you know. And then Jack pitched another game or two, and then that was it. You know, I probably could have gotten him eligible. I think altogether he did throw close to the 17 innings that were needed. But again, I never thought I was going to use him again, you know. And again, I felt obligated to get Jimmer eligible because Jimmer could pitch a little bit too and whatever. You know, more stupidity on my part. So we go into the doubleheader Sunday, and Chuck gets his ass fucking kicked against the Biscuits. And he's fucking cursing at us, and his attitude's terrible. So I want to say we pull him after the third or fourth inning. We kind of just lick our wounds. It was like 8-0, you know. But he's yelling at us for not hitting and not making plays, and everyone kind of stays silent, you know. He goes and starts the next game for us against the Biscuits, and we go all the way into the ninth inning, and, you know, Nick Olcher hits a home run in the top of the ninth. So we had first and second, and I pinch hit for Patrick, and he got into a little bit of a hissy fit because I pinch hit for him. I ended up hitting a line drive to right, and O'Donnell, I believe, made a fucking sick catch in right field. Turned around and doubled up Owen, who was rounding third, ready to score. I mean, he was just running, you know. I think everyone thought that ball was going to drop. So anyway, we end up going to extras, and Nick Olcher hits the home run. Fucking bomb. And Chuck pitches the last inning, and we end up winning the game 1-0. And then he's cursing at the Biscuits to get the fuck off the field on the way off the field. Cursing at the Biscuits. This is my fucking field. Go fuck yourselves. And I'm like, whoa. I'm like, they didn't do anything to you. What's wrong with you? Like, I'm happy we won. Like, I couldn't believe this motherfucker pitched 13 or 14 innings. You know what I mean? And of course, Los Royals was watching the entire time because I didn't know they had access to our game changer, you know? So we go into the championship. I have no Calvin to pitch in the first round. He's not getting back until the following week. He went to Greece or some shit. You know, just my luck. Championship comes around. I have everybody urging me to use Jack Malloy to pitch game one. And I said, I really can't do that. You know, like I was trying to be as straight as possible. Some of you here, you think you could be squeaky clean the entire time. Listen, if you can, good for you. I had no choice. I have an obligation to my guys to try to do the best I can to win games. I faced enormous pressure from my team to allow Jack Malloy to pitch game one against Los Royals, against Donnie Lent. And guys were justifying it. They said, you know Donnie's not eligible. Now, Brandon can argue it all he wants. My guys did their digging. They didn't believe that he was eligible. Whatever. I even did a little bit of digging. I didn't report anything back to the league because it's just not my style, but I did want to know. And I was urged to do that investigating by David Moskowitz. But I didn't want to do it. I didn't understand why he called me about that. You know, I know he wanted us to come into like the American League division that he started, which that was a very good division, you know. But for whatever the reason, he just wanted to create some chaos. I didn't understand it. Like, why are you creating chaos beneath you? You know, he seems to like that shit. I don't know. So I end up not using Jack Malloy. I end up having Brooks start game one instead. I figured, all right, we got a younger team here. Brooks is older. Brooks was a great pitcher when he was younger. At that time, I'm like, I know he's 44 years old, but he had been throwing for the 32 and up team and did excellent. So I worked it out with Johnny and Brooks where he'd start for us because he didn't throw for me at all last year. The year before, he closed a lot of our games. He was one of my better relievers, you know. Anyway, I ended up using him, and it didn't go great. I want to say he threw 3 innings and allowed 4 runs or something like that. And Donnie, we just never really got to him. We had a couple opportunities to score, and like Jimmer hit a bomb off the fence. If that thing just would have went over, we would have tied it earlier, and maybe that would have given us some confidence. But you could just see like the mood in the dugout wasn't good, you know. And I don't know if they just didn't feel great about the pitching matchup. You know, I really do think a lot of it is what you're feeling and how you feel. But we end up losing that game, you know, 8-2. That is a fucking weird alarm. Anyway, fucking shit talks to you. We go into the weekend, and then my plan is to have Chuck pitch both games. I had nothing else. Again, I'm getting more pressure to have Jack Malloy pitch. I said I'm not doing it. I said Chuck pitched both games last weekend. He'll pitch both games this weekend. That's it. We have no choice. I said if we get off to a crazy lead, I'll throw Evan in. I'll throw Nick Olcher in. But I felt comfortable with having Chuck pitch that second game. You know, we ended up losing that game 3-2 or whatever it was. We had a 2-0 lead. We had some opportunity to really break the door open, and we just didn't do it. You know, that's it. It didn't get done. The game's over. He's bitching at us like fucking crazy that we didn't hit for him. To the point where guys started yelling at him. Then we find out after the game that he's having beers with Los Royals and he's talking shit about our team, you know. So I thought for sure we probably were going to lose him. I made some jokes about releasing him, trading him during the offseason. It was more just a joke. It was more for him to kind of like reach out to me and be like, hey, you know, like, what's going on, blah, blah. And then just kind of talk it over with him. Be like, listen, like, you can't say the stuff he said. And, you know, obviously I wanted him back the next year. He started getting flaky with work at Gus. Gus gave him a job, paid him pretty decent. At first he was doing a good job. Then he was just a no-call, no-show. And Gus needs people to show up for work. You know what I mean? Like this is how he makes his money. For some of the people who he power washes their houses, he also plows their driveways and does lights for them for the holidays. You know what I mean? So he services these people all year round. This could be up to $5,000 a year just from that customer. Like, you don't piss these people off. Maybe more than that. You know, maybe more than that. I don't even know. You know, cleans their vents. You know what I mean? Like he's got 4 businesses. You know what I mean? He's a smart guy. And then after a few times, he had to fire him. You know, he didn't want to fire him, but he did. You know. Finally, he reached out to me and just told me he had no money to play. So he's like, so yeah, I'm out. I have no money. I said, all right, you know, can you at least pay umpire fee? He made it as if he didn't even have the $12 for the umpire fee. So finally, again, this is me trying to win it all. I spent all the money that I had spent during the off season already. I had the season fees paid off. Because I paid off, I used to pay it off during the off season a little at a time. And then whatever people gave me, I just put that money back in my pocket. I kind of repaid myself. So in the end, if I sat here and did the math, like I know I lost money on the team the last few years, you know. But I was willing to let him play. Fuck it. And I said to him on the phone, I go, listen, you have to promise me you're going to be a good teammate. I said, if you have it, you can give it to me. If you don't have it, don't worry about it. Comes down, doesn't have uniforms. He's pitching in a St. Joe's uniform the first day. Complete St. Joseph's uniform. Like, look at me, everybody. I play college baseball. Okay, great. Tell me I'm better than you without having to tell me I'm better than you. You know what I mean? So, whatever, I let him pitch. I give him 2 brand new uniforms. Number 25. I gave him 2 brand new hats. Right? And he already had 2 uniforms from the year before. I liked him so much, I gave him a black jersey early. That's how stupid I was, Eventually he tells me he's going to come after he only played the 2 games. And he was like, oh, I found my old uniform, so I can give you 1 set of them back if you want, and the hats. And I was like, oh, great. Like, it sounded like he was back. He was all in. He sounded a little like himself over the phone. No call, no show, nothing. People are seeing him in Patchogue hanging out Saturday nights. He's so fucking drunk, doesn't know what the fuck he's saying or doing, And that essentially is the end of Chuck on this team. Ultimately, when I did a little more digging, I found out from some of his college teammates that he was actually their most hated teammate. Luke couldn't stand him. I thought they were like best friends, He actually gets pissed when I say it. It stinks, but that's kind of how that situation ended. It was a roller coaster ride with Chuck. You think you could take people in and you think you could change them. I think the thing with me is I always see the best qualities out of everybody. I don't know if that's being a special ed teacher. You have to see the best in everyone, not their worst. Because they present with so many issues. So you have to believe in them more than they even believe in themselves. These kids come in saying, I'm stupid, I can't do it, I cannot pass a test like regular kids do. And you look at them and you say, yeah, but this kid's got this one quality. And if I can exploit that one quality and teach to their strengths, I can get this kid to pass, So I've always seen the better in people, where most people see the one bad quality and they walk away. And maybe this is why I get myself into trouble. My job is to get the person who really doesn't belong and make them belong. I had a BOCES kid and I got him onto his district baseball team. At our school, that was never done. The kids that did participate for their district sports, they had been doing it before they got there. We never had a full BOCES kid who sat in our BOCES system from the time they were a little kid and go all the way through and try out for their district team. And they don't know anybody there because they hadn't been a part of that district their entire lives, right? They were separated from them. No friends in the neighborhood, nothing that went to the school, none that played on the team. I got that kid onto the team. Now, luckily, I did know the varsity coach, and Westbury's a small program. He was a junior. I was begging them to just put him on the JV. I ended up taking him on the varsity, ended up being an okay player. That's like one of my claim to fames in the last 5 or 6 years. Because really, I had no desire to go back to coaching. Gus asked me yesterday, could you ever see yourself coming back and managing? And I said, absolutely not. When I made the decision that I was walking away, that decision's made. I'm never coming back. If I did come back, I'd regret it. I'd instantly regret it. I don't want to do it anymore. And I finally crossed the line. And once you cross that line, that's it. And I've been trending toward that direction for a few years. Why? Because I just was not willing to see the bad qualities that people had. I was not willing to see those red flags. I knew they were there, just wasn't willing to do anything about it. I thought it was better to not rock the boat. I thought maybe I was older and this was the way younger guys were. And I thought, let the younger guys work it out. In the end, it cost me. I could have continued to recruit. I should have seen the signs from a lot of these people. Even bringing Kyle down. I called Kyle for 4 or 5 straight years. Never even responded to me. Now And this is after Walsh gave me his number and everything. Walsh talked to him, everything. Danny Gruenthal brings him down. Danny barely shows up this year. He shows up to one game. How do I not see the signs? How could you be that stupid? You know, unfortunately, that's me. You know, and managing in this league has completely passed me by. You know, so there's no situation that I would come back and manage. Because I cannot make square pegs fit into round holes anymore. I just can't do it, you know. And once you realize that you just can't do something anymore, you stop. It's not so much my playing, you know. Yeah, I hit 239. Got off to an extremely slow start. You know, could I lose a little? I need to lose a little bit of weight, obviously, as some of you saw. I definitely put on a little bit of weight. You know, a part of that is recovering from 5 hospitalizations, you know, 3 surgeries last year. So it took me a while to get going, you know. Yeah, I could lose 15 pounds, and I'm going to get the meniscus surgery, and I'll figure out how to hit with no meniscus now. And I'll probably get myself close to, if not over 300 again. And I did discover my power stroke. It's nothing to do with my playing anymore. I've accepted where I belong playing. It's how do I exist in this new generation? How do I run a team when I can't see simple signs like that? That's when I know that I'm done. You know, that all the purity is gone. And I've been dealing with stupid things like that year after year. But now it's got me over the edge. It was one too many situations. So that's that. Hope you all enjoyed the story.